Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 94 for you guys today. So to kick off this week's episode on the Combat Series, I'll be sharing my current top 5 lightweight boxers, my list of top 5 lightweight boxers currently in the sport of boxing today. So I'll be ranking my list from number 1 going all the way down to number 5. So at number 1, I have Shakur Stevenson as the best lightweight fighter in the sport of boxing today. Currently, he's the reigning defending WBC world champion. He's 23-0, 3-division world champion, a top 10 pound-for-pound star in the sport of boxing today. Really intelligent boxer, great defensive-minded boxer as well. Has a stiff, mean jab to keep his opponents off them. At number 2, I have Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Davis is 30-0. 30 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw to his resume. Currently, the WBA champion has the knockout. He has the knockout strength, the power, the speed, the athleticism, the great boxing IQ that makes him a great world champion. The reason why I don't have him as number 1 anymore is because of that result that happened against Lamont Roach at the beginning of March. 3, I have Vasily Lomachenko, the the IBF lightweight champion, and he has everything you need in a boxing ring. I mean, he's very intelligent, a smaller fighter at this division, but has done a tremendous job winning titles in his career at the 135-pound division. 4 is Keyshawn Davis, the WBO world champion at this division. A tremendous, powerful puncher, has great boxing IQ. Looks like the next big thing in the sport of boxing. 5, I will put William Zepeda there. William Zepeda, after his victory last night against Tevin Farmer, is looking to become the next title challenger for either the WBC or WBA world title. He's probably going to be ranked number 1 or number 2 in the body sanctions by those respective body sanctions. So he should be in line for a world title opportunity soon. But let's go to the deeper dive why I do believe that these fighters are the best fighters at the lightweight division. The reasons why I have them ranked right now. So 1 is Shakur Stevenson. Like I said, Shakur Stevenson is the WBC champion in the sport of boxing. I think he's the best fighter in the lightweight division today. I mean, he's a 3-division world champion, has everything that you want in terms of being an elite fighter in the sport of boxing. I mean, he's an elite boxer. I think he's the best defensive fighter that since Floyd Mayweather. His defensive skills are top-notch. I don't think anybody in the sport has the defensive skills that he has and possesses in his toolbox and in his arsenal. He has great footwork as well. Has a stiff, mean jab to keep his opponents off him. I put Shakur Stevenson in the conversation for having one of the best jabs in the sport, behind the guys of Devin Haney, Dimitri Bivol, and several others. And Shakur Stevenson is also great in fighting in the distance. I mean, he could keep his opponents off him. He's very comfortable fighting in the distance, and he's also a great counter puncher as well. So I think with all of those skills, I think Shakur Stevenson is the guy at 135 right now. I think he's the best fighter. And, of course, we can't know until these guys all fight each other, but this is just based on my assumptions. And if there's a flaw I have to point out about Shakur Stevenson, I feel like he has the skills to take over this division, no doubt. But the only flaw is he can be too defensive-minded in fights. And what I mean by that is when you're too defensive-minded, that limits you to taking risk or going for the knockout to entertain the crowd, which as long as you get the win, it doesn't matter. But if you're too defensive-minded and you're not taking chances against your opponents down the line when he gets in the ring against a Gervonta Davis, or if he fights a Lomachenko, or whatever the future holds for him in his boxing career, if Shakur Stevenson is down in fights, down on the judges' scorecards, and he's being too defensive-minded, not taking chances, not taking risks, that could cost him to possibly lose his first professional fight down the line. So other than that, I think Shakur Stevenson is one hell of a fighter, has all the skills to be one day a future number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport of boxing. So I think he's number 1 on this list for a reason. Now, number 2 is Gervonta Davis. Unbiased opinion, I think Gervonta Davis has the skills and the boxing IQ to be a legitimate threat at from 135 all the way to 147. Gervonta Davis actually believed in himself. But you guys know I love me some Tank. Gervonta Davis is just one hell of a fighter, great overall fighter. He has explosive boxing power. For somebody at 135 that has power like a lot of people call him a mini Mike Tyson for how small he is to possess all of that power. and he puts asses in seats as a pay-per-view, a box office attraction in the sport of boxing. Has the speed, has the quickness, can fight at different angles, has great boxing IQ, knows how to make adjustments in between rounds during championship fights. And he's also a great counterpuncher. A lot of people don't talk about Gervonta Davis being a great counterpuncher, but he is. And that's what makes me chuckle when I talk about people in the sport, when I talk to people about boxing, and everybody just believes Tank is just a knockout artist. That's not true. He has all these intangibles and has all the skills to take over legitimately 3 divisions if he really put his mind to it and believed himself. But he has a decent resume at 135. I talked about this in the past with Gervonta Davis. I mean, he has victories against De Los Santa Cruz, Pitbull Cruz, Rolly Romero, Frank Martin. But the thing that's missing is Tank has yet to fight these guys of Shakur, Vasily Lomachenko, the best of the best at this division. You're beating B-plus fighters at this division. That's why I've given him a B-plus resume. But the reason why I have him at 2 is because he got very lucky at the beginning of the month when he fought Lamont Roach. You were supposed to take care of business against Lamont Roach, somebody that you pulled up from 130 to 135 for this fight. And he came and gave you a run for your money. And honestly, that night, Lamont Roach should have had his hand raised. So he's lucky he has a draw on his resume instead of his first career loss. But other than that, Gervonta Davis is one hell of a fighter. But that is the reason why I have him at 2 instead of 1 right now in my lightweight rankings. Now, Vasily Lomachenko is currently Vasily Lomachenko is the IBF lightweight champion in the sport. He has great boxing skills, great footwork, can fight at different angles. He's a great counterpuncher and lands combinations that will frustrate his opponents. They keep his opponents off of him. Vasily Lomachenko is a very skillful fighter, and his amateur background is the reason why Vasily Lomachenko has adapted well in his pro boxing career thus far. But it looks like we're in the back end of Vasily Lomachenko's career because he is in his late 30s. I don't know how much time he has left in the sport. But that comes to my biggest flaw about Vasily Lomachenko, and that's coming up short when it matters most. Vasily Lomachenko has 18 victories, 3 losses to his resume. He has held the lightweight titles, unified the lightweight titles, and he's been a unified champion. But when you look at his biggest fights, look at his fight against Teofimo Lopez in 2020. Came up short, and Teofimo Lopez did his thing that night. Probably the biggest victory of his boxing career thus far. And then you could bring up Lomachenko coming up short against Devin Haney as well in 2023. Controversial who won that fight. When I look back at it, I would say that Lomachenko won that fight 7 rounds to 5 rounds and should have won the undisputed titles that night. But he's coming up short on his quest to be an undisputed champion at this 135-pound division. And with him not having much time left, I don't know if he's ever going to achieve that goal that he once set out for himself. But still one hell of a fighter, so he's number 3 on my list. Now, Keyshawn Davis. I mean, Keyshawn Davis, I have him as the 4th best fighter in this division behind Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis, and Vasily Lomachenko. But don't sneeze at Keyshawn Davis. He is the reigning defending WBO champion, just won that title a month ago. But the thing with Keyshawn is he has explosive power, great boxing IQ. He's defeated former world champions. Top Rank has done a great job building him up to be a legitimate threat at this division and to be a future pound-for-pound star. I mean, he's learned, Keyshawn Davis has learned from the best in the sport. That being Bo Mack, one of the best trainers in the sport of boxing, Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson. He's learning from these great boxing minds this early in his boxing career. I have not seen any flaws detected in Keyshawn Davis's game. I think he's the next big thing at this division, the next big thing that the sport of boxing has to offer. And as long as he keeps this up throughout his career, I think Keyshawn Davis is going to be one hell of a fighter. And I can see him moving up one day to 140 being a world champion, 147 to be a world champion. He has a bright future. And I think Keyshawn Davis has all the skills to be the next big thing in the sport of boxing. So he's number 4 right now on my list. And at number 5, I have William Zepeda. Now, William Zepeda makes the final fighter on my list of the top 5 lightweight fighters currently in the sport of boxing. William Zepeda is 33-0, 27 victories come away with knockout. Could be the next cash cow for Golden Boy Promotions. I mean, we know Golden Boy Promotions has a lot of fighters signed under Oscar De La Hoya's banner. of Ryan Garcia, Virgil Ortiz Jr., but William Zepeda does have the skills. He has the Mexican fan base behind him, and he has the knockout power to possibly be the next big thing and the next big cash cow for Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. But what makes William Zepeda a good fighter is he's good at landing punches, he's good at landing combinations, but staying very active in between rounds. And the thing about William Zepeda is I was impressed by his victory last night against Tevin Farmer. He won that fight and rewrote his wrong, because when you look at the fight a few months ago with him and Tevin Farmer arguably won that fight. And he dropped William Zepeda. William Zepeda got dropped for the first time in his boxing career. So he went back, made the adjustments that were needed and necessary to defeat Tevin Farmer, and looked pretty good last night. So that's what the all-time greats have done as well. They rewrote their wrongs after bad performances, given fighters rematches, and looked 10 times better. And that's what the outcome of William Zepeda had against Tevin Farmer. But again, he should be probably the #1 ranked contender for the WBC and WBA world title. So we'll see if he gets a world title shot by the end of 2025. The thing about William Zepeda is we're going to see how his game either increases or declines once he gets in there with top-tier competition, because Oscar De La Hoya has done a great job spoon-feeding him these opponents. But when we get in the ring with these world champions of a tank as Shakur, Keyshawn, we're going to see what he's really made of. But for now, I will say that William Zepeda is a top 5 fighter at this lightweight division. But that is currently my top 5 ranked fighters currently at the lightweight division in the sport of boxing today.